Hello, science fans. Let's tackle one of the biggest questions out there. What makes you, well, you? Is it the secret code hidden inside your body, the world you grow up in, or how hard you try at things? This is the famous nature versus nurture debate. Nature refers to your genes, the microscopic instruction manual you inherit from your parents. This DNA blueprint dictates things like your eye color and blood type. On the other hand, nurture is your environment, everything from the food you eat and the family that raises you to the school you attend and the friends you make. It's the world shaping you from the outside in. For a long time, people argued passionately for one side or the other. Some believed we are born as blank slates and our experiences write our life story. Others insisted our destiny is pre-written in our genetic code from the moment we are conceived. But science, as it so often does, reveals a more complex and fascinating picture. It's not a simple case of one or the other. Instead, think of it as a constant conversation between your genes and your environment, a dynamic duo working together to shape who you become, how you think, and what you can achieve throughout your life. To understand this conversation, scientists use a tool called the heritability rate. Now that sounds complicated, but the idea is pretty simple. A heritability rate is a percentage that estimates how much of the differences we see in a trait across a population can be explained by genetic differences. For example, if the heritability of height is 80%, it means that 80% of the reason people are different heights from one another is due to their genes. The remaining 20% is influenced by environmental factors like nutrition. It doesn't mean your height is 80% genetic. It's about the variation in a whole group of people. So what does this mean for you? It suggests that for many of our core characteristics, our genes provide a starting point or a potential range. Your environment and your personal efforts then determine where you land within that range. If you have genes that give you the potential to be a fast runner, you still need to practice, train, and eat well to become a champion. Your genes might build the race car, but your environment and your effort are the fuel and the driver. It's an incredible partnership that makes each of us a unique experiment. How can we possibly untangle the effects of genes from the environment? Scientists found a brilliant natural experiment: identical twins. Identical twins come from a single fertilized egg that splits in two, which means they share virtually 100% of the same genetic blueprint. By studying twins who were adopted into different families and raised in completely separate environments, researchers can see which traits stay the same despite different upbringings. If a trait, like being outgoing or shy, appears consistently in both twins, even when they are raised apart, it strongly suggests a powerful genetic influence is at play. These twin studies have produced some astonishing results. The Minnesota study of twins reared apart, a famous project, found sets of twins who met for the first time as adults and discovered they had the same hobbies, drove the same model of car, and even gave their children the same names. These spooky similarities point to how deeply our genes can influence our personality and preferences. Studies estimate that our core personality traits, like how open we are to new experiences or how conscientious we are about 40 to 60% heritable. That's a huge chunk of who we are, seemingly wired in from the start. But here's a fantastic twist that shows the environment always has a say. Consider your fingerprints. You might think they are purely genetic, and they almost are. The heritability rate for fingerprint patterns is a whopping 98%. However, that tiny 2% from the environment makes all the difference. Tiny variations in pressure, nutrition, and position in the womb cause each finger's ridges to form uniquely. This is why even identical twins have different fingerprints. A real-life case in Malaysia from 2003 showed just how important this is. Police arrested one of two identical twin brothers for a crime, but couldn't prove which one was at the scene because their fingerprints were too similar for a partial match, and no prints were taken upon arrest. Both brothers were acquitted. This amazing story teaches us a critical lesson. Even for a trait that is almost entirely determined by our DNA, the environment can introduce small, random changes that have massive consequences. It shows that genes are not absolute dictators. They are more like powerful guides. The environment constantly interacts with our genetic blueprint, adding its own unique signature to the final product. So while your genes might give you brown hair, the sun in your environment might add natural highlights. It's always a collaboration, a beautiful dance between nature and nurture. Now let's talk about talent and intelligence. This is where the conversation can get tricky. Some studies suggest that our genetic potential can act like a ceiling, limiting what we can achieve no matter how hard we work. Think of it like this: success equals genes times effort. If your genetic factor for a specific talent, say musical ability, is very low, close to zero, then no amount of effort can multiply that zero into a masterpiece. You can learn to play an instrument and enjoy it, but you might never reach the level of a prodigy who seems to have been born with music in their veins. The numbers from research are quite compelling and can feel a little startling. Scientists estimate the heritability of musical talent to be as high as 92%. For athletic ability, it's also very high. Even for things we think are under our control, like body weight, the genetic influence is estimated to be around 88%. And what about intelligence? The heritability of IQ is estimated to be between 54 and 80%. What's especially interesting is that studies show the genetic influence on IQ actually seems to increase as we get older. While a child's home and school environment have a huge impact early on, their innate genetic potential appears to play a bigger role after puberty. This brings up some tough-to-swallow ideas. If genes are this powerful, it means that two people could put in the exact same amount of effort in school, but their genetic differences in cognitive ability might lead them to very different outcomes. This challenges our deeply held belief that hard work alone is the key to success. It suggests that effort is essential for reaching your potential, but it cannot create potential that isn't already there in your genetic code. This is a very different way of looking at the world than simply saying you can be anything you want to be if you just try hard enough. It's important to remember that these are just statistical averages across large groups, not a destiny written in stone for any one person. Some research has even explored average differences in types of intelligence between different population groups, a highly controversial and sensitive topic. The key takeaway, however, is not to create limits, but to understand them. Recognizing that our abilities have a strong genetic foundation might help us be kinder to ourselves and others. Not everyone is born with the genetic lottery ticket for becoming a theoretical physicist, and that is perfectly okay. So, if our lives are so heavily influenced by a genetic lottery we didn't choose, what does that mean for our ideas about fairness and success? It forces us to ask some really profound questions. If a person's success in school or their career is strongly tied to their innate genetic abilities, is it fair to reward them so much more than someone who may have worked just as hard but started with a different genetic hand? This perspective challenges the idea that people who achieve great success did it all on their own, and that those who struggle have only themselves to blame. This kind of thinking could completely change how we design our society, especially our education systems. If we know that people have different innate strengths, some might be genetically predisposed to excel at math, others at art, and others at hands-on mechanical tasks, then maybe a one-size-fits-all approach to school is not fair at all. True fairness might mean creating a system that identifies and nurtures each individual's unique, inborn talents. It would mean providing different paths to a successful and fulfilling life, rather than forcing everyone down the same narrow road where only one type of intelligence is celebrated. On one hand, this knowledge could lead to a more compassionate and understanding world. We might stop judging people so harshly for their weaknesses and start celebrating their unique strengths. It could encourage us to build a society that values all kinds of contributions, not just the ones that lead to the highest salaries. It could foster a sense of humility in the successful and offer a sense of dignity to those who struggle, recognizing the powerful role of the genetic lottery in all of our lives. This shift in perspective is about moving from equality of outcome to equality of opportunity, tailored to who we truly are. However, we must also be careful. As our understanding of genetics grows, we could face new dangers. Imagine a world where insurance companies or employers could use your genetic information to make decisions about you. This technology is already emerging with things called polygenic indexes, which can predict the likelihood of certain outcomes. The big question we all must answer is this: how can we use this incredible scientific knowledge to create a fairer, more supportive world for everyone, rather than a world that sorts and divides us before we've even had a chance to try? The conversation is just beginning. Consider it.